This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. All right, Big Paul here today, and I have an update on Bostin Loyd. His mother recently spoke in an interview to Dave Palumbo, our ex-muscle, about Boston's autopsy and what killed him. And we already kind of knew the details, but she goes a little further in depth about what happened. I debated whether or not I even wanted to talk about this because I always feel kind of tchotchke talking about this stuff. I'm going to turn monetization off on this just to be decent about it. I don't want to make any money off of somebody else's death. But I think it's important that we talk about it so we can learn some lessons from it. So his mother spoke in depth with Dave Palumbo. I don't know how much of it is true. Only she knows, but it seemed to be congruent with what we know and what happened when he passed away. And hopefully there's some lessons to be learned here for the rest of us to help us all stay healthier as we do this sport. We know we're taking risks when we do this. Look, I know the answer to be safe is not to do anything at all. The safest place to be is at home on your couch. But who the fuck wants to live life that way? I don't. I want to live life like a lion, but I also want to be as responsible as I can and not take unnecessary risk. I take calculated risks. I think Boston took unnecessary risk at times when he could have been more intelligent about his approach and probably would have still been with us. But I don't want to disparage the guy. I'm working with several of his former clients, and everybody has nothing but good things to say about the guy. They say he was just a fantastic human being, friendly, cared about everybody. I think he struggled with his own demons, but who the fuck doesn't, right? So I don't want to beat him up. He seemed like a decent guy, a lovable kind of guy, and everybody that worked with him seemed to enjoy his being around him. But his mother, so she talks about it. She was a bodybuilder, but she said that she said it's very important people know what happened, and I think Boston, with the way he was, he would have wanted the people to know what he did. That was just his personality. He was honest. We're doing I don't know what they're trying to say here. What the would want. I don't know what the fuck that means. Looks like a typo on here. But she talked about his autopsy. Evidently, he had some discomfort before he went to the gym. And he didn't want to go to the hospital. He said he was experiencing some back and leg pain. And he left the gym because he was in a lot of pain. He did not want to go to the hospital. He did not believe in doctors. And she said that was the problem. Every time he went to the kidney specialist, he thought that he kind of knew more than they did. He had a distrust for doctors. So, on this distrust for doctors things, I totally fucking get why he had distrust for doctors. I have had very poor experiences with the medical profession being in bodybuilding, and honestly, it makes you want to not even go to a fucking doctor. I try to be proactive. I try to do things, and my doctor actually fired me because I came out and told him what I was doing and said, hey, I need help from you to mitigate some of the negative effects of this. And he said, well, let me think about it. And he called me a couple days later and said he couldn't work with me anymore. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Seriously. He said that the only way he would work with me is if I got off of everything and got clean, like I'm some sort of fucking heroin addict or something. And the shit I've been through just trying to get a goddamn CPAP machine so I can sleep and not fucking kill myself. I'm trying to be proactive and take proactive action to prevent sleep apnea and possible cardiovascular damage as a result. I'm just trying to be healthier, and they won't even work with me to get a fucking CPAP machine. Trying to get blood pressure medicine, for Christ's sakes. I used to just go in and say, hey, I need a refill, and they would do it. But now they're like, well, you need to lose some weight, and blah, 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 blah. I mean, I'm 270 with fucking abs. All right. I know I am by the body mass index. I'm clinically obese. So I get why Boston did not trust doctors. I mean, the doctors don't do anything to endear themselves to our community. They're very judgmental. They won't even do the basics to help us with manage our health and mitigate risk. They won't even, it's just insane to me. Anyway, so the article goes on. Palumbo continues to share information from the autopsy and explain that there are 3 substances found in Loyd's blood: caffeine, ephedra, and oxycodone. His mother didn't know that he was taking these drugs. Oxycodone, that's a bad news, man. Over the course of his career, Bostin Loyd was open about his use of steroids and the state of his kidneys. Loyd was experiencing stage 5 kidney failure, and effects were found in his autopsy. It showed damage to the kidneys and a lot of sclerosis and damage to the filtering mechanisms. This was consistent with a condition of high blood pressure. Bostin Loyd was aware that he needed dialysis and eventually kidney transplant. All right, so here I harp on this so fucking much. I feel like a broken record saying this, and especially the young guys don't want to hear it. The single biggest things that kill bodybuilders are cardiovascular events. Bostin Loyd's in Bostin Loyd's situation was an aortic dissection and kidney damage. Everybody's worried about their liver. Everybody's worried about insulin. Those things. Almost no. I've never heard of a bodybuilder dying of liver failure. Maybe it's happened. I'm sure it's happened somewhere, but I've never heard of a bodybuilder dying of liver failure. I've never heard of a bodybuilder dying acutely from insulin. Maybe it has happened, but I tell you what I have heard of is a shit ton of bodybuilders dying from cardiovascular events and a shit ton of bodybuilders having chronic kidney disease that leads to them dying. That is very real. And they mentioned high blood pressure in the autopsy. If he had just taken ARB, he probably would have never had the kidney damage that he did. And it seems like the autopsy seemed to indicate that it was from chronic high blood pressure, not from the whatever the fucking experimental drug he took. He blamed it on. It may have pushed him over the top, but you don't get sclerotic damage just from 1 week of doing something. That's from years of damage on an organ. That just doesn't happen overnight. So it was clear that it was from high blood pressure. So, guys, I can't emphasize it enough. If you're going to take steroids, manage your blood pressure. And an ARB manages the renin-angiotensin aldosterone pathway, which is stimulated by exogenous androgens. I see dudes getting on the calcium channel blockers and things like that really don't address the root cause of androgen-induced hypertension, which is stimulation of the RAS, RAS system. So, just taking an ARB, taking telmisartan probably would have saved him from kidney failure. Now, I don't know if it would have saved him from the aortic dissection. They go on to talk about how his father had the same condition, and Bostin was aware of it, and that he just did not address it. So they talk about it here. The genetic connection came from Loyd's father, John Loyd, who also had an enlarged aorta. The problem is hereditary, and Loyd seemed to have a similar issue. Loyd's centimeter was 5.2 centimeters, which is the size the doctors began monitoring to make sure it does not get bigger. Surgery is often needed when the aorta reaches this size. So I know his father had a proactive surgery done. I'd heard that somewhere. If I'm wrong about that, please let me know. His father had the same condition, had corrective surgery done to fix it, and his father's still here. So with the combination of the high blood pressure, and if he had been proactive and monitored it, hadn't been skeptical of the doctors, maybe he would still be here. Sometimes this got him into trouble. He was always willing to discuss his drug issues, and Loyd was smart enough to know this was harmful because he used steroids over the course of his years. Loyd was aware of his health problems, but would not stop taking certain anabolic steroids. Look, I get it. You get your identity wrapped up into this shit, and it's hard to let go when you have a chronic health problem. I totally get it. I mean, it's losing size. Some guys would rather just die than be small. You know, I get it. I'm a person who I want to live my life like a lion, not a lamb. So that was his choice. We need to respect his choice. You know, it may not be your choice. You may think it's stupid, but it's what he wanted to do. To each his own. It was his body. He should be able to do with it as he pleases. So it goes on. Do you think Bostin, and this is obviously, you have to get into his head for a second. Do you think Bostin was in the mindset that if I can't be bodybuilding and take the drugs, I don't want to be alive? What's the point? She says, I believe so. So it's exactly what I was talking about. She goes, I believe something was going on with his brain chemistry. Why that last week he was doing all this stuff, and he was smart enough to know that this was going to cause his death. Once again, I'm speculating here, and I do not say this out of lack of respect, but it certainly seemed, when I heard him talk at times about what he was doing and how he was thinking, it certainly seemed that he struggled with some sort of mental illness. I believe I heard him mention obsessive compulsive disorder at some point on a podcast, which is possible. It seemed like the dude did stuff that just wasn't logical. You know, we take risk, but you take calculated risk. You back off sometimes, and you take safe compounds. But there's things you can do to mitigate risk. It seems like he didn't think rationally when it came to his own PED protocols and programming, which is weird because like I said, I've worked with several of his old clients, and I've seen the protocols that he had his clients on, and they were very conservative. So clearly he knew the right way to do things. He just didn't do them to himself. He just had some sort of psychological need to keep living the way he was. She said she discovered that he was taking steroids at age 16. She goes, I was mad. It didn't help when his when his dad gave it back to him at 18. That's like saying, son, it's okay. Now you're of age. I think that's when he started going full blown. He came back to my house from North Carolina. His mom's getting in here to blame his dad. I think that's sort of fucking bullshit. Sounds like she's got a grudge for his father, so whatever. It's fucking stupid. Yeah, he had boxes of steroids when I asked him to leave. This wasn't happening. He was working out and training out of my house, and he was taking drugs and getting big. They changed his attitude, and I didn't want it in my house. I was totally against it. All right, this whole part sounds fucking stupid to me. She said, what we need to do is have a sit down and talk and say, you know what, we all love you, but you've become a drug addict. He needed to know that we loved him, and this will affect us all. That's what we needed to do, and we needed an intervention. Here's the thing. Can you get addicted to steroids? Sure, you can get addicted to anything, and I think it's more of a psychological addiction than it is a physiological addiction. It's not in the same way as like getting addicted to alcohol or heroin or something like that where you're non-functional. But the thought of giving up that size of that hard work, you get addicted to people looking at you. You get addicted to people commenting on how big you are. It is an exhilarating feeling. I can tell you firsthand. So I certainly can see where he would not want to walk away from that. But let's see, it goes on to say, by the way, this is a Generation Iron article. I can't recall if I gave credit to them or not. So giving credit to Generation Iron for this one. Bostin Loyd's personality was big, and in his interviews, where he was always full of excitement as he spoke his mind openly. Some shied away from this, but Maria Rea, his mother, knows the kind of person that he was, and when you got to know him, Bostin would speak highly of his personality. The people who knew Bostin Loyd would speak highly of his personality and character. Yeah, I've run into quite a few people that knew him. I told you, I'm training several of his clients. They all loved the guy. They said he was just super nice, super loving, just a very kind, and a lot of times kind guys, kind people can have demons. We all have our struggles. We all have our demons. I don't judge him for it. None of us are perfect. So anyway, summing this all up and circling back around, a couple thoughts on this. Bostin seemed to have some severe struggles with mental illness. And I see guys that struggle with mental illness playing around with steroids. I think it is a slippery slope when you're playing around with these compounds when you have mental illness. It's not my place to tell you what you should and shouldn't be doing. I would be a fucking hypocrite if I did so. But tread carefully if you have mental illness and you take these things, because it can affect you. And a lot of times I see people that I coach that aren't thinking clearly and do irrational stuff, even just with diet. So they need somebody to help them think rationally. But it seemed like he struggled with mental illness, and he had a certain, probably a self-image issue, I'm guessing. Dysmorphia. We all of us in bodybuilding have a bit of dysmorphia. When I walk around and everybody tells me I'm one of the biggest people they've ever seen, and then I'm like looking in the mirror, I'm like, I don't think I'm big enough. I don't look that big. That's probably where he was at. And another piece of advice, a lesson we can take from here is to fucking manage your blood pressure. Jesus Christ, guys, is one of the easiest things that you can do to save yourself from dying from taking PEDs. And don't pound excess gear that you don't need. Take what you need to progress no more. Stay away from orals and shit like that are rough on your cardiovascular system and your lipids and your blood pressure. Stick with the more mild compounds. Let the food, the training do the work. Use compounds that have been approved for human use and have a long track record of human use. Manage your health, get your blood work done. Try to find a doctor that you can fucking trust. I know they suck. Most doctors suck. I get it. If there are not that many out there that are friendly to bodybuilding, and the ones that are usually have to pay out of pocket for. They don't take insurance, so there's that. Our normal GPs. I literally have corrected my GP about things about anabolics that he said that were just completely wrong and false. I just told him, I'm like, you're talking out of your ass, dude, and you have no idea what you're talking about. And I went through and corrected him, and he was trying to tell me that taking testosterone was going to cause my liver to fail. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? Jesus Christ, where are you even getting this from? Show me one study that shows that. And he's just making shit up. So that's why people don't trust doctors. Bullshit like that. So I get why he didn't trust the doctors. But you still got to try to find one that you can work with, one that can help you. So stay on top of your health. Manage your blood pressure. Keep tabs on your cardiovascular health. And use moderate amounts of safer compounds. It's really that simple. My condolences to Boston's family. I'm sure they're all still in pain. Guy seems super nice. I hope I've done this in a respectful way. He seems like a dude that I would have loved to hang out with and talk to. But he just happened to take it too far, got caught up in it, had some unlucky genetics. Part of it is genes too, guys. Some people just have a ticking time bomb. He may have passed away regardless. He may have lasted another 10 years without it, but it may have caught up with him eventually anyway. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful. Take care.